I never thought I'd be the kind of man who'd spend 18 months planning another person's complete destruction. But then again, I never thought my best friend would sleep with my fiancée 2 weeks before our wedding, get her pregnant, and then show up at my bachelor party with a smile on his face like nothing had ever happened. The worst part, I found out from a napkin, not a confession, not a tearful admission, a fucking cocktail napkin with her handwriting on it stuffed in the pocket of his jacket that I'd borrowed after he spilled whiskey all over himself at my rehearsal dinner. Meet me at the Grandview Hotel, room 804, 11 p.m. Can't wait to feel you again. LL for Laura. My Laura. The woman I'd bought a house with. The woman whose father had just toasted us an hour earlier with tears in his eyes, calling me the son he never had. I stood in my bathroom, that napkin trembling in my hands, and something inside me just fractured. Not broke. Fracture implies a clean break. This was different. This was a spiderweb of cracks spreading through everything I thought was solid, through every memory, every laugh, every moment of trust I'd ever given either of them. His name was Marcus Webb, and for 23 years he'd been closer to me than my own brother. We met in the 3rd grade when he punched Tyler Simmons for calling me poor trash because I wore the same jeans 3 days in a row. Marcus came from money. His dad owned half the commercial real estate in downtown Portland, but he never cared about any of that. He cared that Tyler made me feel small, and he made sure Tyler never did it again. From that day forward, we were inseparable. We learned to drive in his dad's old Mercedes that he kept in the garage, taking turns behind the wheel in empty parking lots on Sunday mornings. We'd crank up whatever music we were into that week, Blink 182, then Green Day, then this weird phase where we thought we were sophisticated for listening to The Doors and pretend we were characters in a movie about our own lives. We lost our virginities the same summer, me to Ashley Kramer at band camp, him to her best friend Madison at the lake house 2 weeks later. We told each other everything about those experiences, the good and the awkward and the terrifying. That's what best friends did. No secrets, no lies, complete transparency. We got matching tattoos senior year, these stupid tribal bands around our biceps that we thought made us look tough but really just made us look like every other idiot 18-year-old in 2008. My mum was furious when she found out. Marcus's dad just laughed and said boys would be boys. We felt invincible, bonded by ink and stupidity, and the absolute certainty that nothing would ever come between us. When my mum got sick sophomore year of college, Marcus drove 4 hours every weekend to help me take care of her. He'd show up Friday night with groceries, help me clean the house, sit with her while I caught up on sleep or schoolwork. He never complained. Never acted like it was an inconvenience. He just showed up, week after week, because that's what brothers did. When she died, he was the one who held me up at the funeral, because my dad had left when I was 7 and my brother was deployed in Afghanistan. I remember standing at the graveside, my legs threatening to give out, and Marcus's arm around my shoulders was the only thing keeping me vertical. Marcus gave one of the eulogies. He talked about how my mom used to make us chocolate chip pancakes every Saturday morning, how she'd always ask about his love life like he was her second son, how she'd told him once that she was grateful I had someone like him in my life. I cried through the whole thing. So did half the funeral home. That night, after everyone left, Marcus and I sat in my mum's kitchen, drinking her favourite whiskey, Maker's Mark, which she kept hidden in the cabinet above the fridge. We didn't talk much. We just sat there, passing the bottle back and forth, existing in our grief together. "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said at one point. "You know that, right? Whatever you need, however long it takes, I'm here." I know, I said, and I believed him. I was the best man at his wedding to Rebecca when we were 26. I helped him pick the venue, choose his suit, write his vows. I gave a speech at the reception about how I'd watched Marcus go through a dozen relationships before finding Rebecca, and how I knew she was different because he started smiling differently when he talked about her. Everyone laughed. Marcus hugged me afterward and said it was the best speech he'd ever heard. I held his daughter Mia when she was born 2 years later. I was the second person to hold her after Rebecca, Marcus insisted. I remember looking down at this tiny, perfect human and feeling this overwhelming sense of joy for my best friend. He was a father. He was starting this incredible new chapter, and I got to be part of it. I was there when Rebecca left him 3 years later, when she packed up Mia and moved to Seattle with her personal trainer, some muscled douchebag named Trevor who posted gym selfies on Instagram and talked about himself in the third person. I watched Marcus crumble, saw him go from a confident, successful man to someone who could barely get out of bed in the morning. I put him back together piece by piece. Let him sleep on my couch for 4 months. Listened to him cry at 3 a.m. when he couldn't sleep. Helped him find a lawyer. Went with him to every custody hearing, sitting in those terrible courthouse chairs while lawyers argued about visitation schedules and child support. When the divorce was finalized and Marcus only got Mia every other weekend, he came to my apartment and we got drunk, really drunk. And he said, "I don't know what I'd do without you, man. I mean it. You're the only person who didn't abandon me."
Never gonna happen, I told him. We're family. That's who we were. That's who I thought we were. I met Laura 3 years ago at a charity gala that Marcus's company was sponsoring. It was one of those fancy Portland events where everyone wore their most expensive clothes and pretended to care about whatever cause was being celebrated, while really just networking and drinking overpriced wine. Marcus had invited me as his +1 since he was between relationships and didn't want to show up alone. "Come on," he'd said. "Free food, open bar, and we get to feel good about ourselves for supporting literacy programs or whatever the hell this thing is about." Laura was working the event as part of the hospital's outreach team. She was a pediatric surgeon at Oregon Health and Science University. Brilliant, driven at the top of her field at 32 years old. She'd been asked to speak briefly about the hospital's partnership with the charity. I watched her give her speech and
was mesmerized, not just by how beautiful she was, though she was objectively stunning, but by the passion in her voice when she talked about the kids she worked with. She told a story about a 7-year-old girl who'd come in with a congenital heart defect, how the surgery had been risky but successful, and how that little girl had drawn her a picture afterward of them both as superheroes. "That's what we get to be," Laura said to the room. "Not because we're special, but because we show up for people when they need us most. That's all heroism is, showing up." The room applauded. I couldn't take my eyes off her. After her speech, Marcus nudged me. "You're staring." "I'm not staring." "You're definitely staring. Go talk to her." What would I even say? Literally anything. You're a smart guy. Figure it out. So I did. I waited until she was standing alone, getting a drink at the bar, and I walked up to her with my heart pounding like I was 16 again. "That was a beautiful speech," I said. She turned, smiled. "Thank you. Are you a donor?" "Honestly, I'm just here because my friend dragged me along, but after hearing you talk, I think I should be." She laughed. "That's the best kind of honesty. I'm Laura." "I'm Daniel Carver." We shook hands. Hers was small and warm and confident. "So what do you do, Daniel Carver, when you're not being dragged to charity galas?" I'm an environmental engineer. I design sustainable water systems for developing communities. Her eyes lit up. Really? That's incredible. Where have you worked? Honduras, mostly. Some projects in Haiti and Kenya. Right now, I'm leading a team on a rural water project in the Olancho region. That's the sexiest thing I've ever heard, she said, and I laughed so hard I snorted champagne. We talked for 3 hours that night about her work, my work, what drove us, what scared us. She told me about growing up in Vermont, about losing her mother to breast cancer when she was 19, about why she'd chosen pediatric surgery because children deserve doctors who saw them as fighters, not victims. I told her about my mom's death, about the work in Honduras, about why I'd chosen engineering over something more lucrative. I just wanted to do something that mattered, I said. Something real. That's exactly how I feel, she said. Everyone thinks doctors do it for the money or the prestige, but I do it because I can't imagine doing anything else. These kids need someone to fight for them. By the end of the night, I had her number. Marcus had left hours ago with some woman he'd met texting me, "You look busy, get her number, or I'm disowning you." I texted him back. "Got it." His response, "That's my boy." Laura and I went on our first date 3 days later. Dinner at a Thai place in southeast Portland, then a walk along the waterfront even though it was raining. We talked for 6 hours. At the end of the night, standing outside her apartment building with rain soaking both of us, she kissed me. "I don't usually do this on first dates," she said. "Do what?" "Feel like I've known someone forever." "Yeah," I said. "Me neither." Marcus loved her immediately. I brought her to his place for dinner about a month into our relationship, nervous about what he'd think. His opinion mattered to me more than I wanted to admit. She won him over in about 15 minutes, asking intelligent questions about his work, making him laugh with stories from the hospital, treating him like someone she genuinely wanted to know rather than just her boyfriend's friend. After dinner, while Laura was in the bathroom, Marcus grabbed my arm. "She's perfect for you, man. Don't fuck this up." "You think?" "I know. I've never seen you like this with anyone. You're happy. Really happy." "I am." "Then hold on to her. Women like that don't come around often." I did hold on to her. We moved in together after a year, bought a house after 18 months. A little craftsman in the Laurelhurst neighborhood that needed work, but had good bones. We spent weekends renovating it together, learning how to tile a bathroom and refinish hardwood floors through YouTube videos and sheer determination. Marcus came over constantly, helping with projects, bringing Mia when he had her. I remember one Saturday, when the 4 of us were painting the living room, me and Marcus on ladders, Laura and Mia doing the trim work. Mia got paint in her hair, and Laura didn't get upset, just laughed and helped her clean it up. Marcus caught my eye across the room and smiled. "This is good," that smile said. "This is really good." I proposed 2 years later on a hiking trail in the Columbia River Gorge. It was the same trail where we'd had our first kiss, this beautiful path that wound through old-growth forest and opened up to a view of the valley below. I'd been carrying the ring in my pocket for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. We reached our favorite viewpoint, this rocky outcropping where you could see for miles. And she was talking about one of her patients, this little boy who'd been terrified of the surgery but had been so brave, and I just knew. I got down on one knee while she was mid-sentence. She stopped talking, stared at me, started crying before I even opened the ring box. "Laura Tierney," I said, "you're the bravest, kindest, most incredible person I've ever met. You make me want to be better. You make me believe in things I didn't think were possible. Will you marry me?" Yes, she said. Yes, yes, yes. I slipped the ring on her finger, a sapphire, because she'd told me once that diamonds felt too conventional and she'd always loved blue stones. She kissed me, and we stood on that overlook holding each other while other hikers smiled and congratulated us. That night, we called everyone. Her dad, who cried and said he couldn't wait to walk her down the aisle. My brother, who was stationed in Germany, but promised he'd get leave for the wedding. Our friends, who screamed into the phone with excitement, and Marcus, who answered on the first ring. She said yes, I told him. Of course she said yes, you idiot. When's the wedding? June 14th, next year. Mark me down for best man duties. I'm already working on my speech. Wouldn't want anyone else? Love you, brother. Love you too. We set the date for June 14th, a Saturday, warm but not too hot, with the wedding at the Evergreen Estate overlooking the valley. Laura wanted something elegant but not stuffy, intimate but celebratory. We spent months planning every detail, agonizing over seating charts and menu choices, and whether to have a string quartet or a DJ. Marcus was going to be my best man, obviously. Who else would it be? He threw himself into the role with characteristic enthusiasm, helped me pick my suit, organized the bachelor party, gave input on everything from the venue to the honeymoon plans. He and Laura worked together on a surprise birthday party for me in April, coordinating behind my back to gather all my favorite people in one place. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have found a woman like Laura, to have a friend like Marcus, to be building this life that felt almost too good to be true. Turns out it was. 6 weeks before the wedding, Laura started acting different. Nothing dramatic at first, just small things. She'd come home from the hospital and go straight to the bedroom, claiming exhaustion. She'd check her phone constantly, then put it face down when I walked into the room. When I asked if something was wrong, she'd smile and kiss my cheek and say she was just stressed about the wedding planning. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? We'd been together for 3 years. We'd talked about having kids, about where we'd retire, about what we'd name our dog. She'd never given me a single reason to doubt her. But looking back, I can see all the signs I missed. The way she'd started picking fights over nothing, what movie to watch, what to have for dinner, whether we should invite my cousin's new girlfriend to the wedding, the way she'd pull away when I tried to be intimate, claiming she was tired or stressed or not in the mood. The way she'd sometimes look at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt? Sadness? Something. 4 weeks before the wedding, Marcus started acting strange too. He'd cancel plans at the last minute. He'd seem distracted when we hung out, checking his phone the same way Laura did. Once, when we were having drinks at our usual spot, Morrison's pub on 5th Street, I caught him staring at nothing with this guilty look on his face. "You good?" I asked. He snapped out of it. Yeah, just thinking about work." "You sure? You've been weird lately?" "I'm fine, brother, just got a lot on my mind. This Bellingham deal is killing me." The Bellingham deal was some commercial reel, state development his firm was invested in. He'd been working on it for months, and it had hit some regulatory snags. I figured the stress was getting to him. "Anything I can do to help?" I asked. "Nah, I just need to push through it. But thanks, man. I appreciate you checking in." "That's what I'm here for." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I didn't push. Marcus was always stressed about work. His dad had handed him control of the family company 3 years ago, and Marcus felt the weight of that legacy every day, the expectation to maintain what his father had built, to prove he was worthy of the Webb name. I figured he was just dealing with the usual bullshit. I didn't know he was dealing with my fiancée. 3 weeks before the wedding, Laura and I had a fight. A real one, not just bickering about minor things. She'd come home late from the hospital, or so she said, and I'd made dinner, set the table, opened a bottle of wine. I'd had a rough day at work and I wanted to connect with her, to remember why we were doing all this wedding planning stress. But when she walked in, she barely acknowledged the effort. "I'm exhausted," she said. "I'm just going to grab a shower and go to bed." "I made your favorite, chicken piccata." "That's sweet, but I already ate at the hospital cafeteria." Something in her tone bothered me, dismissive, cold. "Are you okay?" I asked. "You've been distant lately." "I'm fine, just tired." "Laura, talk to me. If something's wrong—" "Nothing's wrong." She snapped it harsh enough to make me flinch. Then she softened. I'm sorry, I'm just stressed. The wedding, work, everything, I'm fine." "Are you sure? Because if you're having second thoughts about getting married—" "I'm not having second thoughts. Can we please just drop this?" We dropped it. But the tension hung between us for days afterward. I told Marcus about it the next time I saw him. We were at the gym, spotting each other on the bench. Press. "Laura and I had a fight," I said. "She's been really distant. I don't know what's going on." Something flickered across his face, too fast for me to identify. "Pre-wedding jitters," he said. "Rebecca went through the same thing before our wedding. It's normal." "You think?" "Yeah, man. Getting married is a big deal. She's probably just processing everything. Give her some space. She'll come around." I nodded, felt a little better. "Thanks." "Anytime, brother." But his hands shook slightly as he guided the barbell back onto the rack. The rehearsal dinner was on a Thursday night, June 12th, at Laura's favorite restaurant, Castagna, this upscale place in southeast Portland with exposed brick walls and intimate lighting. We'd rented out the private dining room for 40 people, including both our families, the wedding party, and our closest friends. Laura's dad, Robert, stood up halfway through dinner and gave this incredible speech about how he'd prayed for someone to love his daughter the way she deserved, and how I'd answered that prayer. "When Laura was little," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "she told me she wanted to marry someone who made her laugh, who challenged her to be better, who saw her as an equal partner in everything. And Daniel, you are that person. You make my daughter happier than I've ever seen her. You're not just marrying into our family, you already are family. I love you, son." I cried. Laura cried. Half the table cried. Marcus sat 3 seats down from me, raising his glass with everyone else, that perfect smile plastered on his face. The same smile I'd seen 1,000 times, the same smile I'd trusted for 23 years. He stood to give his best man toast. "I've known Daniel for 23 years, he began. "We've been through everything together. Good times, bad times, terrible haircuts, and worse fashion choices. Everyone laughed, but in all that time I've never seen him as happy as he's been since he met Laura. She brings out the best in him. She challenges him, supports him, loves him in a way that's just rare. Watching them together reminds me what real love looks like." He raised his glass. "To Daniel and Laura, may your marriage be everything you dream it will be." "To Daniel and Laura," everyone echoed. I caught his eye across the table. Mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded, smiled. Later that night, Marcus spilled wild turkey all over his suit jacket. We were at my apartment, just the groomsmen, having a few drinks and playing poker before the big day. Marcus was on his third pour, dealing cards, when he gestured too wildly, telling some story about a disastrous client meeting, and knocked the whole glass across his lap. "Fuck!" He jumped up, whiskey dripping everywhere. Everyone laughed. I grabbed a towel, helped him clean up. "Dude, "Go change," I said. "I've got an extra jacket in the bedroom." "You're a lifesaver." He disappeared into my room, leaving a trail of bourbon smell behind him. 20 minutes later, he came back out in one of my sport coats, a navy blazer I'd bought for work presentations but rarely wore. It fit him pretty well despite him being slightly broader in the shoulders. "Looking good," someone called out. Yeah, deal the cards." We kept playing until 2 in the morning, drinking and laughing and talking shit the way men do when they're together without any responsibilities looming. My college roommate told embarrassing stories about me. My cousin talked about his new baby. Marcus gave me grief about going off the market. "Last days of freedom, brother," he said, clapping me on the back. "How's it feel?" "Feels right," I said. "Laura's it for me." Something passed over his face. Guilt? Pain? But it was gone before I could be sure. He left with the jacket still on around 2:30, said he'd get it dry cleaned and return it before the wedding. "Keep it," I said. "Looks better on you anyway." "Nah, I'll bring it back. Thanks, though." He hugged me before he left. Held on a little longer than usual. "Love you, man," he said. "Love you too." I didn't see him again until the next afternoon. I found the napkin Friday at 3 p.m. I'd been looking for my phone charger, thought maybe I'd left it in the jacket pocket since I'd worn it to lunch the day before. When I couldn't find it in the closet, I remembered Marcus had taken the jacket. Then I remembered he'd worn a different jacket when he left, a leather one he'd had in his car. He'd grabbed it on his way out because the sport coat smelled like bourbon, which meant my blazer was probably still in my bedroom somewhere. I found it hanging on the back of my desk chair. Checked the pockets for the charger. Instead, my fingers closed around a crumpled piece of paper. I pulled it out, unfolded it, and my entire world inverted. The handwriting was unmistakable. Laura had this very specific way of writing, all the letters leaning dramatically to the right, her L's with this distinctive loop. I'd watched her write grocery lists, birthday cards, love notes she'd leave on my pillow when she left for early surgeries. This was definitely her handwriting. "Meet me at the Grandview Hotel, room 804, 11 p.m. Can't wait to feel you again." L. I read it 5 times, 10 times, trying to make it say something else, trying to find another explanation. The Grandview was a boutique hotel downtown, the kind of place people went for romantic getaways or affairs, expensive, discreet. Not the kind of place you'd go for a business meeting or a casual drink with friends. Room 804, a specific room, not just, "let's meet at the hotel." She'd already booked it, had the room number ready. "Can't wait to feel you again." Again? This wasn't the first time. This was habitual, ongoing, something that had happened enough times that they were comfortable, casual about it. My legs went weak. I sat down on the edge of my bed, our bed where Laura and I slept every night, and tried to breathe. My chest felt like someone had reached inside and squeezed my heart with a fist. Think clearly. The napkin had been in Marcus's jacket pocket, the jacket he'd borrowed last night, which meant this note had been given to him recently, possibly even last night at the rehearsal dinner. I thought back. Tried to remember if I'd seen Laura and Marcus talking privately, if there'd been a moment when she could have slipped him something. After her dad's speech, Laura had gone to the bathroom. She'd been gone for maybe 10 minutes. Marcus had stepped out to take a phone call around the same time. Oh, God. Had they met in the hallway? Had she handed him this note while I was sitting inside, wiping tears from my eyes over her father's beautiful words about how I was the man she deserved? I wanted to vomit. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call her right then and demand the truth. But something stopped me. If I Confronted her now, she'd deny it. She'd say the napkin wasn't hers, that I was being paranoid, that maybe it was from before we met. And maybe she'd be convincing enough that I'd doubt myself. Maybe I'd want to believe her so badly that I'd let it go. I needed more than a napkin. I needed to know for certain. I pulled out my phone and opened our shared calendar, the one Laura and I used to coordinate our schedules to make sure we didn't double-book date nights or forget important appointments. I scrolled back, looking for patterns. June 11th, 3 days ago, Tuesday night. Laura had marked that she was working late, an emergency surgery on a 7-year-old with a ruptured appendix. She'd texted me around 10:30 saying she was exhausted and staying at the hospital's on-call room instead of driving home. I opened her text history, found the message. "Surgery ran long, sweetheart. I'm wiped. Gonna crash in the on-call room. Love you. See you tomorrow." I'd responded, "Get some rest. Love you too." She'd liked my message, sent a heart emoji. Then if the napkin was from that night, she'd gone to the Grandview Hotel. I called the Grandview, hands shaking. "Good afternoon, Grandview Hotel. This is Stephen speaking. How may I help you?" "Hi, yes, I'm trying to confirm a reservation. Room 804, checked in on June 11th. One moment, please." I heard typing. "Yes, sir. That room was occupied on June 11th. Checked in at 10:45 p.m., checked out at 6:30 a.m. on June 12th. Can you tell me what name the reservation was under?" "I'm sorry, sir, I can't release guest information without proper authorization." "Right, of course, thank you." I hung up. 10:45 p.m., 15 minutes after she'd texted me saying she was going to sleep at the hospital. Checked out at 6:30 a.m. She'd come home at 7, slipped into bed next to me. I remembered her cold feet against my legs. And when I woke up at 7:30, she'd pretended. She'd just gotten back from the hospital. She'd lied directly to my face, while wearing my ring. I scrolled back further in the calendar, looking for other nights she'd worked late or stayed at the hospital. May 23rd, May 9th, April 20th, April 6th, a pattern every 2 weeks like clockwork. I went through my bank statements, looked for the hotel charges, but Laura had her own credit cards, her own accounts. I couldn't see her transactions, but I could see something else. Marcus and I had a shared Apple iCloud family plan. We'd set it up years ago to share music and apps, save money on subscriptions. I'd never thought to remove him from it, which meant I could see his location history. I pulled it up with trembling hands. June 11th, 10:30 p.m., the Grandview Hotel, checked, then double-checked, then triple-checked. May 23rd, 10:30 p.m., the Grandview Hotel, May 9th, 11 p.m., the Grandview Hotel, April 20th, 10:45 p.m., the Grandview
Hotel on and on. Every single night Laura had claimed to work late. Marcus had been at the Grandview with her. I sat there on my bed, staring at my phone, and something inside me just went cold. Not hot with anger, not burning with rage, cold, calculating, patient. I wanted proof. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to understand exactly how long this had been going on, exactly how many lies I'd been told, exactly how deep the betrayal went. And then I wanted to make them suffer. But first, information. I knew Marcus's schedule. Friday afternoons he always went to the gym, East Side Athletics, same as me, though we usually went at different times because of work. He'd be there from 5 to 6:30. His house would be empty. At 5:15 I drove to his loft in the Pearl District. I'd been there 100 times, 1,000 times. I had a key. He'd given it to me years ago, same time I'd given him a key to my place. "In case of emergencies," he'd said. This
was an emergency. I let myself in. The place was spotless, as always. Marcus was meticulous about his space, minimalist furniture, everything in its place. A reaction, probably, to the chaos of his childhood home, where his mother had been a borderline hoarder before she died. I went to his bedroom, opened his dresser drawers, not entirely sure what I was looking for. Nothing. Checked his closet, his nightstand, nothing. I sat down on his bed, feeling insane. What was I expecting to find? A diary confessing everything? Then I saw his laptop on the nightstand charging. I opened it. Password protected. I knew his password. We'd set up each other's computers years ago, back when we were roommates in college. He'd chosen Mia 2018, the year his daughter was born. I typed it in. Wrong password. He'd changed it. I tried variations. Mia 2019, Mia 2020, Mia 2021. Nothing. Then, on a hunch that made my stomach turn, Laura 2024, the computer unlocked. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. He'd changed his password to her name, to the year they started their affair. I opened his email, started scanning through messages, work stuff, client correspondence, newsletters, spam. Then I saw a folder in his sidebar labeled LT, Laura Tierney. I clicked it. The folder contained 47 emails, 47. I opened the first one, dated February 14th, Valentine's Day, from Marcus Webb. To Laura Tierney. Subject: tonight. I can't stop thinking about last night. I know this is wrong. I know what we're doing is unforgivable. But when I'm with you, nothing else matters. I've never felt this way about anyone, not even Rebecca. I love you. I'm sorry. The date: February 14th, 4 months ago, 4 months of this. 4 months while I was planning our wedding. While I was picking out rings and venues and flowers. I opened the next email. From Laura Tierney. To Marcus Webb. Subject: tonight. I love you too. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how to stop it. Every time I see him, I feel like I'm drowning in guilt. But every time I see you, I can't breathe for different reasons. What are we going to do? I clicked through email after email, watching the progression of their affair unfold in digital text. March 3rd, Marcus. I hate lying to him. He asked me yesterday if I was happy, and I lied and said everything was great. I'm a terrible friend, a terrible person. March 15th, Laura. I almost told him last night. We were lying in bed and he was talking about honeymoon plans, and I opened my mouth to say it. But I couldn't. I'm a coward. April 8th, Marcus. Seeing you with him at dinner tonight was torture. Watching you laugh at his jokes, touch his hand, kiss him goodbye, I wanted to scream. April 22nd, Laura. Do you think we could ever tell him? Do you think there's any world where he'd forgive us and we could all move forward? April 22nd, Marcus. No, he'd never forgive this. We've destroyed something irreplaceable. May 10th, Marcus. I can't be your best man. I can't stand next to him at the altar knowing what we've done. I'll tell him I have to travel for work. Make up some excuse. May 11th, Laura. If you back out, he'll know something's wrong. We have to see this through. We have to pretend until we figure out what to do. May 18th, Laura. I'm late. May 18th, Marcus. Late for what? May 18th, Laura. My period. I'm late. May 19th, Marcus. Oh, God. May 20th, Laura. I took a test this morning. Positive. May 20th, Marcus. What are you going to do? May 20th, Laura. I don't know. We're getting married in 4 weeks. May 20th, Marcus. Is it mine? May 21st, Laura. We haven't had sex in 3 weeks. He's been too stressed with the wedding planning. I think so. I think it's yours. May 21st, Marcus. What do you want to do? May 22nd, Laura.
I don't know. I need time to think. May 28th, Laura. I went to my OB, she confirmed. 12 weeks. May 28th, Marcus? 12 weeks, Jesus. That's May 28th, Laura. March, it happened in March. I stopped reading. 12 weeks pregnant. With Marcus's baby. And in 24 hours, I was supposed to marry her. I sat in Marcus's bedroom in front of his computer, reading the evidence of their betrayal, and I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything. I just sat there feeling nothing. No, not nothing. I felt something. It was cold and sharp and patient. I felt clarity. The grief would come later. The rage would come later. The complete psychological collapse would come later. Right now, I needed to document everything. I forwarded every single email to my personal account, all 47 of them, created a separate folder called Evidence. Then I deleted them from Marcus's sent folder, from his trash, from anywhere that would show he'd
forwarded them. I checked his text messages on the laptop. He had iMessage synced to his computer. Found months of text between him and Laura. Hundreds of them. Screenshots of their conversations. Pictures she'd sent him. Nothing explicit, thankfully, but intimate. Her in his t-shirt. Him making breakfast in his kitchen, presumably for her. A selfie of them together, her head on his shoulder, both smiling. When was that taken? Where was I when they took that? I forwarded everything to myself, deleted the evidence. Then I did something I'm not proud of but don't regret. I installed monitoring software on his computer, something that would log his keystrokes, track his emails, record his video calls. I needed to know everything, needed to stay one step ahead. I closed the laptop, put it back exactly where I'd found it, and left. Locked the door behind me. Drove home in complete silence. Laura's car was in the driveway when I got there. She was home. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at our house. The house we'd bought together, the house we'd renovated together, the house where we were supposed to start our married life. Then I got out, walked inside, and put on the performance of my lifetime. Laura was in the kitchen making dinner. Pasta, my favourite, carbonara with pancetta and fresh parmesan. She had music playing, some indie playlist she loved. She was wearing one of my old college t-shirts and leggings, her hair up in a messy bun. She looked beautiful, happy, normal, like she wasn't carrying another man's baby while planning to marry me the next day. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. "Hey, you're home early. I'm making carbonara. Should be ready in about 10 minutes. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Tried to see the woman who'd written those emails. The woman who'd told Marcus she loved him. The woman who'd lied to me for months. "Sounds great," I said. My voice sounded normal, steady. "I'm gonna take a quick
shower." "Okay, babe. Rough day?" "Just long. I'll tell you about it over dinner." She smiled, came over and kissed me. I kissed her back. "Love you," she said. "Love you too," I replied. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. I went to the bathroom, turned on the shower, sat on the floor with the water running and stared at the wall until the water ran cold. Then I got up, dried off, got dressed, and went to have dinner with my lying fiancée. That night, we ate together at our dining room table. She told me about her day at the hospital, a successful surgery on a 3-year-old with a bowel obstruction, a difficult conversation with parents about their child's prognosis, the usual stress of managing residents who thought they knew everything. I told her about my project meeting, completely fabricated details about water filtration systems and supply chain issues, made myself sound engaged, interested, normal. We watched an episode of the show we were binge-watching, some British crime drama we'd been working through. She curled up against me on the couch, head on my chest, playing with my fingers the way she always did. "Tomorrow's the big day," she said during a commercial break.
Yeah. Are you nervous? A little. You? Terrified, she laughed. But in a good way, I can't wait to marry you. I kissed the top of her head. Me too. We went to bed around 11. She fell asleep within minutes, exhausted from her day. I lay awake next to her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. This woman I'd loved completely, this woman I'd trusted absolutely. She was carrying Marcus's child. She was going to marry me tomorrow and let me raise his baby as mine. How long had she planned to keep it secret? A year? 5 years? Forever? Would she have told me eventually? Or would I have spent my entire life believing I was Emma's father? Yes, I'd seen the baby name discussion in their emails, only to find out decades later that everything was a lie. I turned my head and looked at her, sleeping peacefully, beautifully, innocently. I felt nothing. The man who'd loved her was dead, killed by a napkin and a hotel confirmation and 47 emails. Someone else was lying here now, someone cold and calculating, someone planning. I got out of bed carefully, went to my office and started writing notes, plans, strategies. Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day. Instead, it would be the beginning of their reckoning. Continuing in next section, due to length, I woke up at 6 a.m. to my phone ringing. It was Marcus. I let it go to voicemail, listened to the message. Hey man, I know it's early. Call me when you get this. There's something I need to talk to you about before the wedding. It's important. Like, really important. He sounded terrible, voice shaking, on the edge of tears. Good. He called again 5 minutes later. I answered. Hey. Dude, thank God I
thought you'd still be passed out. What's up? I need a favour. Can you meet me at Common Grounds, just you and me, before all the wedding chaos starts? What is it? I'll tell you in person. Can you be there in 30? My pulse quickened. Yeah, sure. Thanks, brother. Thanks. He hung up. I sat up in bed. Laura stirred beside me. Who was that? She mumbled, still half asleep. Marcus. He wants to meet for coffee. This early? The wedding's not till 4? Yeah. Said he needs to talk about something. She opened her eyes, looked concerned. Is everything okay? I'm sure it's fine. Probably just nervous about the best man speech. She smiled sleepily, reached over and touched my face. You're getting married today? I know. I love you so much. I love you too. She kissed me. I kissed her back, tasting the lies on her lips. Then I got up, got dressed, and drove to meet the man who destroyed my life. Common Grounds was our spot. A little coffee.
Shop in northwest Portland where we'd been meeting for years. We'd made business plans there, studied for finals, celebrated promotions, mourned losses. The owner, Margaret, knew us by name, always had our usual orders ready before we even asked. I got there first. Ordered a black coffee, my usual, sat at our table by the window. Margaret smiled at me. Big day. Congratulations. Thanks, Margaret. Where's the groom? Shouldn't you be getting ready? Soon, just meeting Marcus first. That's nice. Those pre-wedding jitters need a good friend. If she only knew. Marcus arrived 15 minutes later. He looked terrible, eyes red and swollen like he'd been crying, face pale, hair uncombed. He was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, completely unlike his usually put-together appearance. He sat down across from me without ordering anything. His hands were shaking. Thanks for coming, he said, voice hoarse. Of course. What's going on? He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the table, breathing hard like he was trying not to hyperventilate. I need to tell you something, he said finally. And it's going to destroy everything, but I can't let you get married without knowing. I can't let you walk into that church without the truth. I waited, letting him hang himself. He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "I've been sleeping with Laura." The words hung in the air between us, heavy, final. I let the silence stretch, watched him squirm. "It started 6 months ago," he continued, words spilling out now like he couldn't stop them. "We were planning your birthday party together, coordinating details, and we started spending more time together. We connected, we started texting, meeting for coffee, and then one night we crossed a line." His voice broke. I tried to stop. I swear to God I tried. I told myself it was a mistake, that it would never happen again. But it did. It kept happening. And somewhere along the way I fell in love, with her. And she fell in love with me. He wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand. "We kept telling ourselves we'd end it, that we'd tell you, but we didn't. We just kept lying, kept sneaking around, kept betraying you." "How many times?" I asked. My voice was calm, eerily calm. "What? How many times did you sleep with her?" He flinched. I don't know. Dozens, maybe more." "Where?" "Hotels, mostly. The Grandview. Sometimes my place when Mia wasn't there." "My house?" "No, never. I wouldn't." "You wouldn't cross that line?" I laughed, cold, bitter. "But you'd cross every other line?" He put his head in his hands. "I'm sorry, I'm so fucking sorry." "Is she pregnant?" He went very still, looked up at me with shock in his eyes. "How did you—" "Is she pregnant?" "Yes." "Is it yours?" "Yes." "How do you know?" You and Laura haven't been intimate in weeks. The timing—" "It's mine." I nodded, took a sip of coffee, set it down carefully. "Anything else?" He looked confused. "What? Is there anything else you need to confess? Any other ways you've destroyed my life that I should know about?" "Jesus, Daniel, answer the question." "No, that's everything." "Okay." I stood up. He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face, completely broken. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I already know," I said. "What?" "I've known for 2 days. I found a napkin in your jacket pocket. Hotel room. Did some digging. Found your emails, your texts, your location history. All of it." The color drained from his face. You knew?" "I did." "And you didn't say anything. You went to the bachelor party. You acted like everything was normal." "I did." "Why?" I leaned down, putting my hands on the table, looking him dead in the eye. "Because I wanted to watch you squirm. I wanted to see if you'd actually tell me, or if you'd let me walk into that church today and marry her while you stood next to me as my best man, knowing you'd fucked her and gotten her pregnant." Jesus Christ. Were you going to tell me? Or were you going to keep your mouth shut? He was crying harder now. "I don't know. I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about you standing at the altar, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't let you marry her." "How noble of you." "I'm sorry." "Don't." I stood up straight, looked down at this man who'd been my brother for 23 years. "I loved you," I said quietly. "You were my family. I would have died for you. I would have given you anything you asked for. I know. And you took the one thing I asked you not to. The one thing that was supposed to be sacred." He didn't say anything, just sat there, broken. "The wedding's cancelled," I said. "I'm calling Laura right now and telling her it's over. You can have her. You can have the baby. You can have the life you built on 23 years of my trust. Please."
"Daniel, but you need to understand something, Marcus." I leaned down again, my face level with his. "This isn't over, not even close. You think telling me makes you brave. You think confessing absolves you. It doesn't. All you did was confirm what I already knew. What are you going to do? I smiled. It felt wrong on my face. Foreign. You'll see. I walked out of Common Grounds and got in my car. Sat there for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, breathing. Then I called Laura. She answered on the second ring, voice bright and happy. Hey, where are you? We need to start getting ready soon. My mum's already here helping set up and the wedding's off. Silence. Complete, total silence. What? I know about Marcus. I know about the affair. I know about the baby. It's over. I heard her breath catch a small, strangled sound. Oh my God, Daniel, let me explain. I don't want an explanation. I don't want to hear your voice. I want you out of my house. You have until tomorrow morning to get your things. After that, I'm changing the locks. Please, just listen to me for 1 minute. Goodbye, Laura. Daniel, please don't do this. I said goodbye. I hung up, blocked her number, blocked Marcus's number. Then I started making calls. First, her father. Robert, it's Daniel. I need to tell you something, and I'm sorry it's so close to the wedding, but Laura and I won't be getting married today. What? Daniel, what are you talking about? Laura's been having an affair with Marcus. She's pregnant with his baby. I found out 2 days ago. I'm sorry. I know you've already traveled here. I know this is terrible timing, but I thought you deserved to hear it from me. Silence. Then, Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You have nothing to be sorry for. My daughter. Jesus, I'm so sorry, Daniel. Thank you, Robert. Are you okay? I will be. We talked for a few more minutes. He was
Devastated, for me, for the situation, for having to tell Laura's mother and siblings, but he was kind, supportive. When we hung up, I called the venue, cancelled everything. They were understanding given the circumstances. I called the caterer, the DJ, the florist, the photographer, cancelled, 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 cancelled. Each call felt like cutting another thread holding my old life together. By noon, everyone invited to the wedding knew it was cancelled. By 1 p.m., everyone knew why. My phone exploded with messages, friends offering support, family expressing shock and anger, people I barely knew sending condolences like someone had died. Someone had died, the version of me who'd trusted unconditionally, who'd believed in the goodness of the people he loved. That person was gone. I spent the afternoon that was supposed to be my wedding sitting in my house, our house, drinking whiskey and reading through the emails again, not because I needed to, I'd memorized them, but because I needed to feel the anger. Anger was fuel. Anger had direction. Anger had purpose. Grief would just paralyze me. So I chose anger. Laura tried calling from different numbers, her mom's phone, her brother's phone, the hospital. I didn't answer. Marcus tried reaching out through mutual friends, through his father, through email accounts I didn't know he had. I ignored all of it. Around 6 p.m., the time I should have been saying my vows, I got a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole. Laura, she was still in her wedding dress, hair and makeup done, mascara running down her face from crying. She knocked again. Daniel, please just talk to me. I know you're in there. I opened the door. She looked up at me with desperate red-rimmed eyes. Thank God. Please, can I come in? Can we just talk? No. Please, 5 minutes? That's all I'm asking. You don't get to ask me for anything. Not anymore. I know I don't. But I'm begging.
You, please. Something in her voice, the raw desperation, made me relent. 3 minutes, I said. Talk. She took a shaky breath. I'm so sorry. I know that's not enough. I know sorry doesn't fix anything. But I need you to know that I never meant to hurt you. And yet, it happened. Marcus and I were spending time together, planning your birthday. And we connected in this way I didn't expect. Before I knew it, we were texting all the time, meeting for coffee. And then one night after drinks, we kissed. And it was wrong, and I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. You could have stopped. You chose not to. You're right. I chose not to. Every single time I made a choice. I chose to betray you. I chose to lie to you. I chose to keep seeing him even though I knew it was destroying something precious. Tears streamed down her face, ruining her makeup even more. But I need you to know that what I felt for you was real. What we had was real. I love you. I never stop loving you. You don't get to love me and fuck my best friend, I said, voice cold. You don't get to love me and lie to my face every single day. You don't get to love me and plan to let me raise his child as mine. That's not love, Laura. That's betrayal. I know, you're right. I need you to know that I meant my vows. Everything I was going to say to you today, I meant it. Your 3 minutes are up. Please. I started to close the door. She put her hand out, stopping it. Are you going to be okay? I looked at her. Really looked at her. At this woman in a wedding dress who should have been my wife. I'm going to be fine, I said. Better than fine. I'm going to move on and build a great life, and eventually I'll forget you ever existed. You and Marcus can have each other. You deserve each other. Daniel, goodbye, Laura. I closed the door, locked it, leaned against it and listened to her sob on the other side. Then I heard her.
Footsteps, walking away, getting in her car, driving off. I went back to the living room, poured myself another drink, sat down with my laptop, and I started planning, because this was just the beginning. The next morning, I woke up on my couch, surrounded by empty glasses and printed emails. My head throbbed. My mouth tasted like copper and regret. But my mind was clear. I showered, made coffee, and sat down at my desk with a notebook. Started writing down everything I knew about Marcus's life, his business, his relationships, his vulnerabilities, his fears. If I was going to destroy him, I needed to be methodical, strategic, patient. Revenge rushed is revenge wasted. I took a week off work, told my boss I needed time to recover from the cancelled wedding. He was sympathetic. The whole office knew what had happened. People sent flowers, cards, emails expressing their support. I appreciated the gestures but didn't need them. I wasn't grieving, I was planning. I spent that week becoming invisible, creating fake social media accounts under different names, following Marcus's business associates, his clients, his employees. I joined online forums where private equity professionals discussed deals and strategies. I researched every investment Web Capital had made in the last 5 years. Marcus's firm, Web Capital Partners, managed a portfolio worth about $400 million. Not massive by New York or San Francisco standards, but significant for Portland. The firm had built its reputation on steady, conservative growth. No wild bets, no risky ventures, just solid returns for wealthy families and small institutions. His father, Richard Webb, had started the company in 1987, built it from nothing into one of Portland's most respected investment firms. When Richard retired in 2021, he'd handed control to Marcus with explicit instructions: preserve the legacy. Don't fuck it up. Marcus was good at his job, but he wasn't great. He'd made some smart investments. A tech startup called Axiom that got acquired by Google for $200 million. A chain of boutique hotels called The Collective that went public and returned 3 times the initial investment. But he'd also made mistakes. A biotech company called GenNext that turned out to be cooking its books. Marcus had pulled Web Capital's money just before the SEC investigation, but it had been close. Too close. And then there was Bellingham, The Bellingham Gateway Project, a mixed-use development, luxury condos, retail space, restaurants on the waterfront in Bellingham, Washington, about 2 hours north of Portland. Marcus had invested $18 million of client money into the project 3 years ago. The project was supposed to break ground in 2022. Then there were permit delays, then environmental concerns about building so close to the water, then lawsuits from neighboring property owners who didn't want their views blocked. The project had been stalled for 2 years now, burning through money on legal fees and holding costs. The clients who'd invested, 3 family trusts and a small pension fund, were getting anxious. Marcus kept assuring them it was fine. The permits would come through, the lawsuits would settle, the project would proceed. But I'd done my research. I knew something Marcus didn't know I knew. The environmental assessments for the Bellingham project had been falsified. The development company, Cascade Properties, had hired a consulting firm to do soil contamination testing. The results had shown elevated levels of heavy metals and petroleum byproducts, remnants from the site's previous life as a shipyard. Those results would have required extensive remediation before building, expensive remediation, the kind that would make the project financially unfeasible, so Cascade had hired a different consulting firm, one with a more flexible interpretation of environmental regulations. That firm had produced clean results. Those were the results submitted to the city for permitting. I knew this because I'd reached out to a scientist at the first consulting firm, the one that had done the legitimate testing. Told him I was an environmental engineer concerned about development practices in the Pacific Northwest. Asked if he'd be willing to talk about his work. He'd been cautious at first. But when I mentioned I'd worked on water contamination projects in developing countries, he opened up. Told me about projects where developers had shopped around for favorable results, mentioned Bellingham specifically as an example that troubled him. We found significant contamination, he said, heavy metals, petroleum, the works, but our client, Cascade Properties, rejected our findings and went with another firm. 6 months later, that firm produced a clean report. Same site, completely different results. That doesn't seem right, I said. It's not. But it happens more than you'd think. Developers have a lot of
money riding on these projects. Sometimes they're willing to bend the rules. Do you still have your original data? I do. We keep everything for 7 years. Why? Just curious about methodology. I'm working on a similar site assessment project. He'd sent me his report. All of it. Pages of data showing contamination levels well above safe thresholds. That report was now sitting in a folder on my desk labeled Insurance. I wasn't ready to use it yet, but I would be. First, I needed to understand Marcus's client base. Who trusted him with their money? Why? What would make them lose that trust? I made a list of Web Capital's 23 active clients, started researching each one. Most were wealthy families, old Portland money, generational wealth built on timber or shipping or real estate. They valued stability, discretion, tradition. They'd chosen Webb Capital because they trusted Richard Webb, and by extension, they trusted his son. But there was one client who stood out.
the Richter family trust. Eleanor Richter was 72 years old. Her late husband, George, had built a logging empire in the 1970s and 80s. When he died in 2016, he'd left everything, about $45 million, to Eleanor and their 3 adult children. Eleanor managed the family trust with an iron fist. She was deeply religious, deeply principled, and deeply committed to using the family wealth for good. The Richters donated millions to charities every year, children's hospitals, foster care programs, homeless services, and Eleanor had nearly pulled the family's money from Webb Capital 2 years ago. I found this out through a Portland Business Journal article about socially responsible investing. The article mentioned that Eleanor Richter had expressed concerns about one of Web Capital's portfolio companies, a vaping manufacturer called CloudTech. "I don't believe in profiting from products that harm young people," Eleanor had told the reporter. "When I discovered Web Capital had invested in a company that markets flavored vaping products to teenagers, I was deeply troubled." Marcus had smoothed things over. Divested from CloudTech, assured Eleanor it had been a mistake, that he hadn't fully understood the company's marketing practices. Eleanor had stayed, but the article noted she put Web Capital on notice. That was my opening. I made a donation to one of Eleanor's favorite charities, New Beginnings, a foster care organization. $50,000, made it in her name as an anonymous tribute. The executive director of New Beginnings sent Eleanor a thank you letter. Eleanor called the organization, asking who'd made the donation. They gave her my name. I'd authorized them to share it if asked. 3 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Carver, this is Eleanor Richter. I wanted to thank you personally for your incredibly generous donation to New Beginnings." I'd practiced this conversation a dozen times in my head. "Mrs. Richter, it's an honor to speak with you. Your work with that organization is inspiring. I was happy to contribute." "That's very kind, but I must admit I'm curious. We've never met. Why make such a large donation in my name?" "Honestly? Because I admire what you stand for. In a world where people compromise their values for profit, you've stayed true to yourself. That's rare. I wanted to honor that." She was quiet for a moment. "That's one of the nicest things anyone has ever said to me." "I mean it. May I ask what you do, Mr. Carver?" "I'm an environmental engineer. I design sustainable water systems for underserved communities. Mostly international work. Honduras, Kenya, Haiti." "That's wonderful. We need more people like you in the world." "We need more people like you, Mrs. Richter." We talked for 20 minutes. She told me about her late husband, about her children, about why she cared so deeply about foster children. Her own mother had been in the system as a child and had suffered terrible abuse. "She made me promise," Eleanor said, "that if I ever had the means, I'd help children who were going through what she went through." That's a beautiful legacy. I try, though sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough. $50 million in charitable giving over the last decade? I'd say you're doing more than enough. She laughed. "You've done your research." "I like to know who I'm honoring." Before we hung up, she said, "Mr. Carver, I'd love to have coffee sometime. I don't meet many young people who still believe in doing good for its own sake." "I'd be honored, Mrs. Richter." We met the following week at a cafe near her home in Eastmoreland, one of Portland's older, wealthier neighborhoods. Eleanor arrived in a Mercedes driven by someone I assumed was her personal assistant, though she dismissed him quickly. "I'm perfectly capable of having coffee without supervision," she told him with a smile. She was exactly what I'd expected, elegant in a understated way, sharp-eyed, with this quiet strength that came from decades of navigating a man's world without compromising who she was. We talked about everything: her family, my work, philosophy, faith. She was Presbyterian, deeply so, but not in a judgmental way, more in a "this is what guides me" way. "My faith teaches me that we're stewards," she said. "We don't own anything, not really. We're just caretakers for the next generation. That's how I think about the family money. It's not mine, it's ours. And after I'm gone, it'll belong to my children and grandchildren. My job is to make sure it's used wisely." That's a beautiful way to think about wealth. It's the only way to think about it without losing your soul. Then, as naturally as I could, I steered the conversation toward investing. Can I ask where you keep your family's money? I'm trying to learn more about wealth management for my own future. Oh, we use Webb Capital Partners, have for years. Richard Webb was a dear friend of my husband's. They did business together back in the 80s. I've heard great things about them. Marcus Webb runs it now, right? Yes, he's, She paused, chose her words carefully. Competent. I caught the hesitation immediately. But, she smiled slightly, nothing. I shouldn't speak poorly of someone who's managing our family's money. No, please. I value honesty. You hesitated for a reason. She sighed, took a sip of her tea. He's not his father. Richard had this integrity, this commitment to doing right by people, even when it cost him money. Marcus is more focused on returns. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's different. Have you ever thought about moving your money? Occasionally, but it's complicated. The family has history with the firm, and Marcus has done well enough by us. Well enough, I repeated, but not great. She looked at me carefully. What do you know about Marcus Webb? Here was my opening. I'd rehearsed this moment. I know he was my best friend for 23 years, I said quietly. And I know he slept with my fiancée and got her pregnant 2 weeks before my wedding. Eleanor's eyes went wide. Her teacup froze halfway to her mouth. Oh my God. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to unload that on you. No, please, I had no idea. I'm so sorry, Mr. Carver. It's not something I talk about, but when you mentioned him, I just thought you should know what kind of person you're trusting with your family's legacy. She set her teacup down carefully, folded her hands in her lap. Mr. Carver, I appreciate your honesty. That must have been devastating. It was. It is. May I ask, why are you telling me this? I looked her in the eye. Let her see the pain there, the betrayal, the anger. Because you value integrity, Mrs. Richter, and Marcus Webb has none. I don't think someone like you should trust someone like him with something as important as your family's future. She was quiet for a long moment. Processing. Do you have proof of what you're saying? I do. Emails, text messages, hotel receipts, all of it. Would you be willing to share that with me? If it would help you make an informed decision about who manages your family's wealth, absolutely. I sent her everything that afternoon, every email, every text, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. She called me 2 days later. Mr. Carver, I've reviewed what you sent. I've also done some additional research on my own, spoken with some mutual acquaintances, asked some discreet questions. I'm appalled. I'm sorry you had to see it. Don't be sorry. I'm grateful you told me. That kind of moral failure. It's not someone I want managing my family's money. I understand. I'm moving our assets, all 45 million. I've already contacted another firm. I think that's very wise. I'm also going to speak with some of the other families I know who use Webb Capital. They deserve to know what kind of man they're dealing with. My heart rate picked up. This was even better than I'd hoped. I think they do too, I said carefully. Thank you, Mr. Carver, for your honesty, for your integrity. You've done me a real service. I'm just glad the truth is coming to light. Eleanor Richter pulled her money from Webb Capital the following week. She also spoke with 3 other families she knew through church and charity work, all Webb Capital clients. The Hartford Family Trust, $28 million. The Morrison Chen Family Trust, $15 million. The Cascade Pension Fund, $12 million. Within 2 weeks, 2 of them had pulled their money. The third launched an internal review of their relationship with Webb Capital. $90 million. Gone. I watched it happen through industry newsletters and Portland business gossip. Heard from mutual acquaintances that Marcus was in a panic. scrambling. His father had called an emergency board meeting. Richard Webb, according to someone who worked at the firm, had demanded to know why long-time clients were suddenly fleeing. Marcus had tried to explain market conditions, client nervousness about interest rates, normal portfolio rebalancing. But Richard wasn't stupid. He'd built this firm. He knew when something was wrong. "You need to fix this," he'd reportedly told Marcus. "Whatever's happening, you fix it. This firm is my legacy. I won't let you destroy it." I smiled when I heard that, because Marcus had no idea how to fix it. He didn't even know what had caused it, and I was just getting started. Next came Bellingham. I reached out to the environmental group that had been fighting the Gateway project, Citizens for Coastal Preservation. Told them I was a concerned environmental engineer who'd heard about their cause and wanted to help. I donated $10,000 to their legal fund. The director, a woman named Patricia Holcomb, called to thank me personally. "Mr. Carver, this is incredibly generous. May I ask what drew you to our cause?" "I've worked on water contamination projects around the world. When I heard about a development being built on a former shipyard without proper environmental assessment, it concerned me professionally." "You understand the issue then? We've been trying to get the city to require more comprehensive testing, but Cascade Properties has deep pockets and good lawyers. What if you had evidence that the environmental assessments were falsified?" Silence. "What kind of evidence?" "The kind that shows Cascade shopped around for favorable results. The kind that shows significant soil contamination that was never remediated." "Do you have this evidence?" "I might know where to find it." I sent her the report from the original consulting firm. All of it. Pages of data showing contamination levels that should have prevented any building permits. Patricia called me 2 hours after receiving it. "This is..." "Mr. Carver, if this is legitimate, this changes everything. It's..."
Legitimate. I verified the source personally. We could file a lawsuit, force the city to revoke the permits, stop the project entirely. That seems appropriate, given the circumstances. Citizens for Coastal Preservation filed their lawsuit 3 days later. The local news picked it up immediately. Environmental groups sue Bellingham Development over alleged permit fraud. The story detailed the allegations that Cascade Properties had submitted fraudulent environmental assessments, that the city had issued permits based on false information, that building on contaminated soil posed risks to future residents and the surrounding ecosystem. Cascade denied everything, issued a statement calling the lawsuit frivolous and politically motivated, but the city couldn't ignore it. They launched an investigation, suspended the building permits pending review. The Bellingham Gateway project ground to a complete halt. Marcus's investors, the ones who'd put $18 million into the project, started calling, demanding updates, demanding explanations. Marcus tried to do damage control, hired lawyers, issued statements, promised the permits would be reinstated, the lawsuit would be dismissed, everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. The city's investigation took 4 months. They brought in independent environmental consultants, did their own soil testing, reviewed all the original paperwork. Their conclusion, the environmental assessments submitted by Cascade Properties, had been materially misleading. The permits were revoked. The project was dead. Webb Capital's investors lost $18 million. 3 of them immediately pulled the rest of their money from the firm. Another $25 million gone. Marcus's father called another board meeting. This one was worse. I heard about it from someone who worked there, a junior analyst named Trevor, who I'd befriended over drinks. He didn't know my connection to Marcus, just thought I was a guy interested in finance. Richard tore into Marcus, Trevor told me. I've never seen him that angry. He was screaming about due diligence, about reputation, about legacy. He asked Marcus how he could have invested that much client money without personally verifying the environmental reports. What did Marcus say? That he'd relied on Cascade's representations, that every developer provides environmental assessments and you can't personally verify everything. Did Richard accept that? No, he said that's exactly what you do when you're managing other people's money. You verify everything. He said Marcus had gotten lazy, complacent, that he'd prioritized quick returns over careful analysis. What happened? The board put Marcus on probation. One more major fuck-up, and he's out? His own father would vote to remove him? I bought Trevor another drink. Listened to him talk about the chaos at the office, the staff wondering if their jobs were safe, the clients who were nervous, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no joy, just cold calculation. One more major fuck-up. I could arrange that. While all this was happening, Laura had the baby. I knew because mutual friends couldn't help but tell me, their mouths full of sympathy and pity, telling me things they thought I needed to know. She had a girl, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, named her Emma. Marcus posted about it on Facebook. He seems really happy. I saw them at the park last weekend. They were with the baby. They looked like a family. I didn't respond to any of it. Didn't ask follow-up questions. Didn't show any reaction. Inside, though, something twisted. Emma, a baby who had nothing to do with any of this. An innocent caught in the wreckage of her parents' choices. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something that might have been guilt. Then I remembered the emails, the lies, the way Marcus had stood next to me at my bachelor party with that smile on his face. I kept going. Laura reached out one more time around Christmas. Sent an email from a new address I didn't have blocked. Subject: please read this. Daniel, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to ask anything from you, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Every single day I'm sorry. Emma is beautiful and I love her more than anything in this world, but every time I look at her, I think about you, about what we had, about what I destroyed. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve the chance to ask for it. I just needed you to know that I know what I did was unforgivable. Marcus and I are trying to build something together for Emma's sake. But it's hard. Everything is hard. We destroyed something precious, and now we're living in the aftermath. I hope you're healing. I hope you've found peace. I hope someday you can think about us, about me, without hate. I'm sorry. Laura, I read it 3 times, then I deleted it without responding. By spring, Web Capital was in serious trouble. They'd lost
over $100 million in assets under management, nearly a quarter of their client base. The Bellingham disaster had destroyed their reputation for careful due diligence. Industry publications were starting to question whether the firm could survive. Web Capital struggles after client exodus, read one headline. Can Marcus Webb save his father's legacy? Read another. Richard Webb was working 18-hour days at age 74, trying to stabilize the firm he'd spent 40 years building, trying to reassure remaining clients, trying to win back trust. And Marcus was drowning. I heard through Trevor that Marcus had lost 20 pounds, that he looked terrible, exhausted, aged, broken, that he'd started seeing a therapist, that he was on anti-anxiety medication. Good, but I wasn't done, because Marcus still had one thing that could save Web Capital, one deal that could turn everything around. Helix Solutions. Helix was a Portland-based tech company that had developed AI-powered customer service software. They'd been growing steadily for 3 years, were profitable, and were looking for growth capital. Marcus had been courting them for months, working the relationship, pitching Web Capital as the perfect partner, local, experienced, committed to long-term growth rather than quick exits. The deal was worth $15 million. If it went well, if Helix grew as projected, it could return triple that in 2 to 3 years. It was exactly the kind of win Marcus needed, the kind of success that would prove to his father and the board and the remaining clients that he could still do this, that he was still worthy of the Web name. The deal was set to close in June. I knew the CEO of Helix Solutions. Not well, but we'd met at a tech conference 2 years ago. His name was Sanjay Mehta. Brilliant, idealistic, one of those entrepreneurs who cared more about building something meaningful than making money. We'd sat next to each other at a panel about technology and social impact. I had gotten drinks afterward and talked for hours about how tech could be used to solve real problems rather than just generate profit. We'd stayed in touch casually, exchanged emails occasionally. He'd reached out once asking for advice about water purification systems for a project he was involved with in India. I reached out to him in May. "Sanjay, hope you're well. I heard through the grapevine that you're in talks with Web Capital for growth funding. Wanted to reach out as a friend and offer some perspective that might be helpful." "Coffee?" he responded immediately. "Daniel, always good to hear from you. Yes, we're in late-stage discussions with Web Capital. Would love to get your take. Thursday work?" We met at a coffee shop in the Pearl District. Sanjay looked good, energized, excited about Helix's growth, optimistic about the future. "Marcus Webb has been great to work with," he said. "Really understands what we're trying to build. Seems committed to being a long-term partner." "He's a talented investor," I said carefully. "But there are some things you should know about Web Capital before you finalize anything." "Such as?" I told him everything, not just the personal stuff, though I mentioned the affair, but the business failures, the client exodus, the Bellingham disaster, the firm's instability. "Web Capital has lost over $100 million in assets in the last year," I said. "They're hemorrhaging clients. There are serious questions about whether the firm will survive the next 12 months. Sanjay's expression shifted from interested to concerned. "I didn't know any of this." "Marcus wouldn't advertise it. But if you take their money, you're tying yourself to a potentially sinking ship. When they go down, and they might, they could take you with them." "How do you know all this?" "Industry contacts and personal experience." Marcus destroyed my life. I've been watching him very carefully since then. This feels personal. It is personal. He betrayed me in the worst possible way. But that doesn't make what I'm telling you untrue. You can verify everything I've said. Sanjay sat back, processing. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you seem like a good guy. You're building something that matters. I don't want to see you get screwed by someone like Marcus just because you didn't have all the information." "I appreciate the honesty. Can I ask, do you have documentation of what you're saying about Web Capital's financial situation?" I did. I'd spent months building relationships with people inside the firm, assistants who felt undervalued, junior analysts who were nervous about their jobs. People Marcus had overlooked or underestimated. They'd told me everything, given me internal memos about client losses, emails about the Bellingham fallout, board meeting minutes where Marcus was put on notice. I'd promised them anonymity, and I'd kept that promise, but I could share the information. I sent Sanjay a carefully redacted package of documents, enough to verify what I'd told him without exposing my sources. He reviewed it over the next week, did his own due diligence, talked to other people in the Portland investment community. Then he called Marcus and withdrew from the deal, told him Helix Solutions had decided to pursue other funding options. I heard through Trevor that Marcus had locked himself in his office for an entire day after getting that call, that he'd emerged looking destroyed, that people in the office were genuinely worried about him. The board called an emergency meeting. This time, they didn't give him another chance. Webb Capital Partners issued a press release 2 weeks later. Webb Capital Partners announces leadership transition as Richard Webb returns as CEO following Marcus Webb's resignation. Marcus will remain on the board in an advisory capacity. The firm thanks Marcus for his service and looks forward to renewed stability under Richard's experienced leadership. Corporate speak for Marcus fucked up so badly that his own father had to fire him. I read that press release sitting in my office at work, read it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and sat there in silence. It had taken 18 months. 18 months of planning, manipulating, orchestrating. 18 months of turning Marcus's world into ash. His career destroyed. His reputation ruined. His relationship with his father shattered. His confidence obliterated. I'd taken everything from him, systematically, methodically, completely, the same way he'd taken everything from me, and I felt empty. Not triumphant, not satisfied, not victorious, just empty. I'd thought destroying Marcus would heal something in me, that watching him suffer would fill the hole his betrayal had left. It didn't. Because revenge isn't a cure, it's a painkiller, and like any painkiller, the effects wear off, and you're left with the same wound you started with. I sat in my office and realized I'd spent 1.5 years of my life focused entirely on destroying someone else instead of rebuilding myself. I'd won. But what had I won? Marcus was broken. His father was disappointed in him. His career was over. And I was, better off. I was alone. Still single, still bitter, still carrying the same anger I'd carried the day I found that napkin. The revenge hadn't healed me. It had just made me colder. That night I went home to my empty house, the house I'd bought with Laura, renovated with Laura, planned to start a family in with Laura. I'd never moved, couldn't bring myself to. It felt like giving up territory. But now it just felt sad. I poured myself a drink and sat on the back porch, watching the sun set over Portland. Thought about Marcus, about Laura, about Emma growing up with broken parents. Thought about myself, about who I'd become. And I realized something. I'd let them take more than my trust and my fiancée. I'd let them take my
future. Not the future I'd planned with Laura, that was gone, and it wasn't coming back. But my actual future, the one I could still build. The one that didn't have to be defined by their betrayal. I'd spent 18 months living in the past, obsessing over what they'd done, planning their destruction. I hadn't dated, hadn't traveled, hadn't focused on my work or my friendships or anything that might actually make me happy. I'd just destroyed. And now that the destruction was complete, I had nothing. I sat on that porch until midnight, drinking and thinking. Then I made a decision. I was done. Done with the revenge. Done with the obsession. Done with letting them control my life. Marcus was destroyed. That was enough. It had to be enough, because continuing would just destroy me too. A month after Marcus's resignation, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered, "Hello? It's me? Marcus." I hadn't heard his voice in over 1 year. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you in person. Please." "I know I have no right to ask, but I'm begging you. One conversation, then I'll leave you alone forever." I should have hung up. should have blocked the number and moved on, but something in his voice, the absolute defeat, made me pause. Why? Because I need to understand. I need to know if it was worth it. Fine. Tomorrow. Common grounds. Noon. Thank you. I hung up. The next day, I walked into the coffee shop where this had all started, where Marcus had confessed, where I'd told him I already knew. He was already there, sitting at our old table. He looked terrible, worse than terrible. He'd aged 10 years, lost weight. His hair was going grey. He had this hollowed-out look of someone who'd been broken and hadn't quite figured out how to put himself back together. I sat down across from him. We looked at each other in silence for a long moment. "You destroyed me," he said finally. "Systematically, completely. You took..."
Everything I had. Yes. The clients, the Bellingham deal, Helix, all of it was you. Yes. How? Carefully, patiently, I learned everything about your business, your clients, your vulnerabilities, and then I exploited all of it. He nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer. Why? You know why. Because of Laura, because of the affair. Because you betrayed me. For 23 years, you were my brother, and you threw that away for a woman, for sex, for whatever the fuck you thought you were getting from her. I know. Do you? Do you actually understand what you took from me? He looked down at his hands. They were shaking slightly. I took your trust, your future, the woman you loved. I destroyed your life. And you destroyed mine in return. Exactly, equally, completely. He was quiet for a moment. Then, was it worth it? The question I'd been asking myself for weeks. No, I said honestly, it wasn't. He looked up, surprised. Really? Really? I thought destroying you would make me feel better, would heal something, but it didn't. It just made me colder, harder, more alone. Then why did you do it? Because I was in pain. And I wanted you to be in pain too. Because revenge felt like the only thing that made sense. Does it still make sense? No. We sat in silence. I'm sorry, Marcus said. I've said it before, but I don't think I really understood what I was apologizing for. I destroyed you. And instead of giving you space to heal, I forced you to carry that pain while I moved on with Laura. I'm sorry. I know you are. Do you forgive me? No, I don't know if I ever will. I understand. But I'm done. I'm done with the revenge. I'm done with the anger. I'm done letting what you did control my life. What does that mean? It means I'm letting go, not forgiving, just letting go. He nodded, wiped his eyes. For what it's worth, I forgive you. For what you did to me, I forgive you. I don't want your forgiveness. I know. But I'm giving it anyway. Because holding on to resentment, holding on to anger, it's killing me. I either forgive and move forward, or I drown in what I've lost. That's very enlightened of you. It's not enlightened. It's survival. I looked at this man who'd been my best friend, saw the wreckage of what we'd done to each other. How's Emma? I asked. He smiled slightly. The first real smile I'd seen on his face. She's perfect, smart, funny. She has Laura's eyes. That's good. Laura asks about you sometimes. Wonders if you're okay. Tell her I'm fine. Are you? I'm working on it. Me too. We sat there a while longer, not talking, just existing in the space where our friendship used to be. Finally, I stood up. Goodbye, Marcus. Goodbye, Daniel. I walked out of Common Grounds and didn't look back. That was 3 years ago. I'm 39 now, still living in Portland, still working as an environmental engineer. I've been promoted twice since the wedding that never happened. I'm leading a major project in Kenya right now, building solar-powered water systems for rural communities. It's the most fulfilling work I've ever done. I started dating again about a year after my final conversation with Marcus. Met a woman named Claire at a friend's party. She's a high school English teacher, patient, kind, thoughtful, nothing like Laura. We've been together for 2 years. We're talking about getting engaged. I'm happy, or at least I'm working toward happy. I still think about Marcus sometimes. Wonder how he's doing. If he found another job. If he's a good father to Emma. If he and Laura are still together. I don't know. I don't follow him on social media. Don't ask mutual friends. I let him go. Laura sent me one final email about a year ago. I heard you're seeing someone. I'm happy for you. You deserve to be happy. I hope you've found peace. I'm still looking for mine. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but if you ever find it in your heart to forgive
Me, please let me know, not for my sake, for yours, because holding on to hate hurts you more than it hurts me. I'll always be sorry for everything, Laura. I read that email 3 times. Then I replied, Laura, I don't hate you. I did for a long time, but hate takes energy and I don't want to give you any more of mine. I hope you find your peace too. I hope Emma grows up knowing she's loved. I hope you and Marcus build something good together, even if it started from something terrible. I'm not ready to forgive, but I'm ready to let go. Take care of yourself, Daniel. She never responded. I'm okay with that because this isn't a story about forgiveness. It's a story about what happens when trust is broken, when the people closest to you betray you in ways you never imagined possible. It's a story about revenge, about how satisfying it seems in theory, how empty it feels in practice. It's a story about realizing that destroying someone else doesn't rebuild what they destroyed in you.
The only thing that rebuilds you is time and work, and the conscious decision to become someone better than the person who hurt you. Marcus and Laura took something from me, my trust, my innocence, my belief that people I loved would never deliberately hurt me. I took everything from Marcus in return, his career, his reputation, his relationship with his father, his self-respect. And in the end, we both lost. Because betrayal doesn't just destroy the person who's betrayed, it destroys everyone it touches, the betrayer, the betrayed, the children born from it, the families torn apart by it. We all carry scars now. Marcus carries the knowledge that he destroyed his own life through his choices. Laura carries the guilt of being the person who came between 2 brothers. Emma will carry the complexity of being the child born from betrayal, though I hope her parents protect her from that knowledge for as long as possible. And I carry the memory of who I became in my darkest moment. The
Cold, calculating person who spent 18 months destroying another human being. I'm not proud of that person, but I understand him. He was in pain, and he didn't know any other way to process it. I'm rebuilding, slowly, carefully, with Claire, who knows everything and loves me anyway, with my work, which gives me purpose, with therapy, which helps me understand how trauma changed me. Marcus is rebuilding too, I assume, though I'll never know the details. And Laura is raising Emma, hopefully giving her the childhood she deserves despite the circumstances of her conception. We all move forward. We all carry our scars. And sometimes, late at night, when I can't sleep, I still pull out that napkin, the one I found in Marcus's jacket pocket 3 years ago. Meet me at the Grandview Hotel, room 804, 11 p.m. Can't wait to feel you again. L. I keep it in my desk drawer. Don't know why. Maybe as a reminder, maybe as a warning. I read it, remember everything, feel the ghost of that old anger. Then I put it away. Because I'm not that person anymore. I'm not the man who spent 18 months planning another person's destruction. I'm just a man who loved people who didn't love him back the right way. And I'm learning to be okay with that. The betrayal broke me. The revenge hollowed me. But the healing, slow, painful, imperfect healing, that's what saved me. So if you're reading this, if you've been betrayed by someone you trusted, someone you loved, here's what I learned. Revenge might feel like justice, might feel like power. It might feel like the only way to balance the scales, but it's not. The only real power is choosing to become someone better than the person who hurt you. The only real justice is building a life so full and meaningful that what they took from you becomes irrelevant. The only real victory is letting go. I let go. And for the first time in years, I can breathe. The napkin is still in my drawer, probably always will be. But I don't look at
it anymore because I don't need to. I know what happened. I know what I did. I know who I was and who I've become. And that's enough. That has to be enough, because holding on to the past, holding on to the anger and the pain and the need for revenge, that's not living. That's just dying slowly while pretending you've won. I choose to live. I choose to build. I choose to love again, carefully this time, with boundaries and wisdom earned through suffering. Marcus made his choices. Laura made hers. And I made mine. We all live with the consequences, but we also all get to choose what comes next. I choose peace, not because they deserve my peace, they don't, but because I deserve it. I deserve to wake up without rage, to laugh without bitterness, to love without fear. I deserve a life that's mine again. So I'm taking it back, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one breath at a time. The story of Marcus and Laura and me, the story of betrayal and revenge. That story is over. What
comes next is just mine, and I'm finally ready to write it.